At the beginning of this season, the NBA announced the debut of a new accolade, the Jerry West Clutch Player of the Year award. The goal with this new addition was to honor players who, down the stretch of games, do the most to close out for their team. And the reason there hasn't really been any buzz or much of a debate on who's going to receive the first installment of this award is because it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that De'Aaron Fox and his late game heroics for the Sacramento Kings have been on an entirely different level. Under new head coach Mike Brown, Sacramento's on pace to win 50 games and appears to be a lock for home court advantage come playoff time for the first time since 2004. The recipe to their success has been a historically good and creative offense, scoring 120 points every 100 possessions with a system built on emphasizing pace and space, moving the ball, and relentless screening actions that lead to a pretty team-oriented approach. That is, until it's time to close out games. As defenses tighten up their coverages, all of that motion and extra passing to pass up good shots for great ones becomes a bit more difficult. And the Kings counter by running quite literally every single possession through their star creator. Clutch time in the NBA is defined as minutes where a game is within 5 points with less than 5 minutes to go. And in that time, Fox sees a massive increase in his usage, all the way up to 44.4%, the most of any qualifying player. His production in these moments almost seems fake, scoring more than 43 points every 75 possessions on an incredibly efficient 61.5% true shooting, while Sacramento's offense just laps the field with a ridiculous offensive rating of 128.7. I mentioned that a point of emphasis for this team has been playing with pace, and that still plays a pretty big part late in games. Down the stretch, defenses tend to be a bit more sluggish and vulnerable to these quicker attacks, and Fox may be the fastest player in the NBA, using his speed to his advantage. Even when it's not an actual fast break possession, he'll push the pace before defenses are able to get properly set. Off of a made basket, Draymond is late to recover and behind the play, which is all it takes for Fox to build up the head of steam and slither his way right to the cup. He's a real lengthy athlete with amazing balance, enabling him to use strides and creative footwork to generate angles as a finisher, which is made even more effective by his ability to slam the brakes and stop on a dime. His touch around the basket is phenomenal, comfortable going to a wide array of layups, which gives his interior scoring some more versatility, and he's got a decent amount of vertical pop, going to more explosive finishes when given space to launch. And if he's unable to get all the way to the rim, he'll fall back on a floater, where again, he uses his footwork and change of speed to create a bit more room upon release. You'll see the same sort of things when he slows it down in the half court. He's got a really good handle and uses that to set up defenders and create lanes to the paint. Once those lanes open up, his speed and length allow him to just explode into those gaps downhill, where again he can finish in a plethora of ways. You'll notice that a majority of these rim attacks come in isolation. He's just too agile and crafty to contain in space, consistently blowing by his man, where he then does an incredible job of shedding help defenders down low. On the season, he's shooting over 75% within 5 feet of the basket, and as a result, defenses have to play him primarily for that threat, to which he counters with an outstanding mid-range game. When you hear the term 3-level scorer, mid-range is thought to be that second level, but within that range, there are still so many different areas to do damage, and Fox is good at utilizing all of them. First is the short mid-range, typically within 10 feet of the basket and often in the painted area. I already mentioned his use of the floater, but he also has a lethal fall-away jumper from these spots. He'll use these as a counter for when his downhill momentum gets cut off, creating separation for himself through step backs, jump stops, or by picking up his dribble and pivoting back to the outside. From just a touch further, you'll find a lot more examples of him creating with the use of that strong handle. He really likes throwing together dribble combos to set up his defender and leverage the threat of those drives before pulling the trigger. He's most comfortable near the nail, where he wants to get to his left to right crossover and flow into these jumpers, and again utilizing tons of step backs, oftentimes taking that first step as if looking to slash before pulling back into them. He's also really good at getting the ball off the floor quickly regardless of where his momentum's headed, and is just an incredible shot maker, comfortable hitting middies while turning around, drifting in any direction, and over great contests, which is huge against those tightened up crunch time defenses. It's important to note that despite being so athletic and playing so well at high pace, his mid-range game can still be so methodical at times, doing a really good job of controlling the tempo and slowing it down when needed, very patiently hunting out the most efficient shots possible as he probes with a live dribble. This also helps him a ton as a ball handler in the pick and roll. But before we get into that, I want to give a quick shout out to Basketball Index for helping with this analysis and the making of this video. If you're not familiar with the site, they provide tons of statistical measurements, tools, and easily accessible graphics to further guide your understanding of the sport. They offer talent grades on pretty much any aspect you can think of, and through their player profiles tab, I can easily compare them to other players around the league. Using Fox's finishing as an example, on this page I'm presented with various metrics detailing his ability to create and make these shots, along with how he stacks up against his peers. This is just one of the many useful tools found on the site that help guide me and many others through their analysis, and by signing up with the code VENUE30, you can get 30% off your first month subscription. I'll leave a link in the description below for anyone interested in signing up, and with that being said, let's take a look at Fox's game in the pick and roll. Sacramento loves going to these plays as a primary form of late game offense. He's a master of using attack angles to set up his man and force them into making contact with the screener, rejecting the initial screen here, which Golden State closes off, before crossing back across the lane to use it again, giving him the space he needs to flow into one of those short mid-range jumpers. Because of his speed, rejecting the screen is always a threat that opposing bigs have to be ready for. Harrell comes up to meet him at the level, so he explodes back in the opposite direction and sheds his man with some beautiful slow motion footwork. He just has so many options as a scorer in the pick and roll. If he's not met with immediate resistance, he'll step right into pull-up middies or patiently play the in-between game as he drives it in a bit deeper for easy floaters. He really likes to attack drop bigs with Euro steps to set these floaters up and get it over the outstretched arms of shot blockers a bit easier. And it's the same sort of thing where if he's given that space to get downhill, paint defenders have a really tough time preventing him from creating quality finishing angles. That doesn't necessarily mean that the answer is to send bigs to the level of the screen though, as his speed and length leave him really tough to contain in space. As he gets into these actions, he's also a threat to create for others. Of course, he's looking to score first, but will make the right play if defenses send that added attention, which most commonly means kicking it out to shooters after applying pressure as a slasher. The overall product is an inside-the-arc assassin, a freakishly athletic guard who can touch the paint with pace, in isolation or more methodically in the pick and roll, and finishes at the rim with the best, but also uses that threat to unlock a wide variety of mid-range shots and counters with incredible shot making, just torching late-game defenses with his scoring, and when needed, making the right play for his teammates to follow suit, which allows him to engine the league's best offense in closing minutes, and leaves him a frontrunner for the NBA's first Clutch Player of the Year award. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of De'Aaron Fox and just how good you believe he is. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.